So many things in this world, they speak for you. Even if you don't particularly think they do. The names that you wear on your clothes and on your shoes. The food that you eat and the jobs that you do. Are you speaking your own voice? Making your own choice. Are you speaking your own voice through the things that you do, through the way that you move? Are you speaking your own voice? Why can't people just say what they mean? It makes things more complicated than you believe. It doesn't mean you have to wear your heart upon your sleeve. But if people just told the truth and see what I mean. Are you speaking your own voice? Making your own choice. Are you speaking your own voice through the things that you do, through the way that you move? Speaking your own voice. If God is so good, why so much poverty? I hear people say, still we've got money for expensive holidays. I've got 10 fingers and none of them are pointing at me. If we never look in the mirror, we're never ever gonna see. Are you speaking your own voice? Ba-dum, ba-dum. Making your own choice. Ba-dum, ba-dum. Are you speaking your own voice through the things that you do, through the way that you move? Speaking your own voice. Ba-dum.
For the last 2 years, I've been on a spiritual pilgrimage to find out about who I am. What's my truth? Who am I without being a medicine woman, without being a mum, without being a grandma, without being a friend? And so I took the plunge and decided to have 2 years to myself to follow my heart, follow my soul, to find my truth. And it was quite amazing. At the beginning, I thought that I was actually going to spend the whole 2 years overseas. And so I headed off and went off to India, thinking that that's where I'd spend my whole time. But within, it was about 3, 4 weeks, I was spat out of India. Mother India has that ability. And so I found myself back in Australia, wondering what had gone on. My expectations weren't in the same line as what was happening. And so, after licking my wounds for a short moment in time, I actually acquired a 4-wheel drive van and headed up to the Cape and went up to Cape York and just had amazing experiences in the outback, in nature, with Coco, just being away from everything and just to be on the land, where every day all that I needed to do was make a fire, boil some water, cook some food, meditate, write, and just be. And it was quite incredible. And then from there, I headed down to the extreme opposite, all the way down to Adelaide, and reacquainted myself with my family. as I don't live in Adelaide and only return there every 5 years, I've found over the years I've lost contact with a lot of people there. And so I felt a great need to return and to do some healing that needed to be done to, yeah, within. And that was quite cathartic. It was quite life changing what happened there. And then from there, I ended up in Tassie. And Tassie was amazing. I spent a lot of time with a friend in the Tarkine. And for anyone that's been there, you'll know how spiritual a place that is. It was quite incredible to hear the trees. You know, they were telling me messages like what their responsibilities were. The most profound thing I heard from the trees there was that they said they were merely carbon copies of the energy at that moment and place in time. And so I took a while to, and am still digesting this information. From there, even though I'd already done a trip to Nepal, it was time to return for my second trip to Nepal to work out in the Western Himalayas in a remote village. And what we were doing was we were going out to remote schools and teaching the teachers how to teach so that they could be more effective in bringing about learning for those children. There'd been a lot of trafficking going on out in the Western Himalayas of Nepal, where, due to the ignorance of the families, they were giving up their children to these traffickers. The traffickers were telling the families that they would take the children to Kathmandu and that they would educate them and feed them and look after them. And once they were educated, they'd come back to the village and bring prosperity to the village. And so the families were giving all their savings and sending off their children with these people. Unbeknown to them, these people were taking the children to the Kathmandu Valley and selling them off as domestic servants. And so to eradicate this problem meant to educate the people there so that they could be more discerning when things like this happened. And so that was quite enriching, spending time out in the villages, going to all the schools. And then from there, I returned and had this great need just to be home. I'd come home after, oh, it must have been 8 months of traveling and just really wanted to settle my roots in and find my true freedom within my own home space without having to go out there. And so after spending the next 4 or 5 months at home, Great Spirit came back to me and asked me what my decision was. I'd been posed the decision 2 years earlier that I could either keep serving my local community or it was time to serve the greater community. And in October of 23, I had to make the decision which one I was going to serve. And so I chose the greater community, thinking as a healer that I would have a bigger effect by working on a greater scale. And so straight away, Great Spirit gave me my first job and sent me to various places around Australia where I had to do certain ceremonies under their instruction. And that was quite amazing. And it was like I was in training for what they had in mind on a bigger scale, because the first overseas trip they sent me on was to Hawaii. I went kicking and scratching because I really didn't had no need to go to Hawaii at all, and it was going to cost a lot of money. But as they said, they'd provide the money, and they did amply. And so I went to Hawaii and performed a number of ceremonies there that linked in with the ceremonies that I've done in other places of the world. And that was quite profound again. You know, when I bring my third book out, you'll find out more about that. And then I came home again and had a month home, and then my amazing companion and love, Coco, it was her time to head back into spirit. And so, being released from any responsibility, I was given my next assignment, and that was to go to Sri Lanka. And so, in February 24, I headed off to Sri Lanka. And once again, profound. You know, I'd arrive in a place and they'd just tell me, go north, go south, go east, go west. And then they'd direct me exactly to where I needed to be. And you probably saw in the photos a jetty just jutting out into the water. You know, when I was in Sri Lanka, I was sent to the northern part of the island Now, there was no tourists at all out here. I had to convince a tuk-tuk driver even to drop me off out there where I knew I had to go. And where I had to go was there was a Christian shrine, and they were having a big ceremony. And behind them was the jetty and the place where I was directed to go to do the ceremony to link up Sri Lanka with the Lemurians and Australia. And so it was quite amazing. Once again, in my third book, you'll find out more details. And to get back to the hotel where I was staying a good hour and a half away, I had to basically hitchhike because there was no means of transport where I'd been taken. And yeah, I came across so much in Sri Lanka. I dealt with people dying next to me. I was able to immerse myself further into the Buddhist teachings, which I really resonate with, and so much more. And it culminated in this amazing, powerful ceremony in one of that was, I can't even begin to describe it in the few minutes I want to take for this actual podcast. So I returned back to Australia with a few months up my sleeve till the end of this pilgrimage that I'd been on. And as it came up to June the 13th, 2024, the end of the pilgrimage that I'd begun, I came to I'd put out for any opportunities, and I said I'd say yes to any opportunities that came my way. So straight away, Great Spirit sent me the next contract, and that was to go to Morocco. And so, given what was happening at home with family and other situations, I decided not to take that contract, and so someone else took it up. And I was given the opportunity to go on a reality TV show where you had to survive in the bush, in the wilderness. And so I followed that for a while, and it flowed as I went through each of the gates that I needed to get through to get onto the TV program. At the same time, an idea had been hatching in my brain about going back to Nepal because I just so loved working out there and being there. I felt like my heart was full when I was in this country. And with my skills of being a teacher, I felt that I could make a difference. And so at the same time, this idea of riding a motorbike to Nepal re-immersed. I'd thought of it a year earlier when I'd been in Nepal. And I started following that thread, and everything seemed to fall in line. Like an orphanage came up in southern Nepal that needed support. And so I was given uh, the meaning behind the journey to take on the motorbike. And then the fella in Nepal, who is the organizer of these projects, wanted to come on board. It was his actual project. And then a good friend offered to set up a web page and also chose to become involved with this project. And so it landed with me coming to the 13th of June 2024 in Mackay getting my motorbike license. And so that's what's led to this project, Tiki on the Road. I hope you've enjoyed the photos of my last 2 years and Adam Cousens' amazing music with his words and sounds that are just so apt for what I've just gone through. And so, yeah, if you can subscribe down below, tick the thumbs up button. I'm trying to actually get to the stage where I can be funded through my YouTubing and so be free to do so many more of these podcasts. So, yeah, namaste and have a beautiful day. Love ya.